I will follow up with a more specific motion for Monday, putting that in those concerns in the proper context. And my apologies to anyone who might have inadvertently been offended.
I do want to fact check something that Kevin Goff said earlier in the first clip that you played, Vinny. He said that Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, was in the courtroom earlier in the week. That has not happened. He has not been here. There was some kind of an announcement a couple of weeks ago that he may be attending, but he hasn't actually been in the courtroom. And you heard him mention that Al Sharpton came into the very back of the courtroom. I've been inside this courtroom and I've had a vantage point of where the jurors sit. You really have to lean forward to see the jury when I'm trying to figure out what their reactions are. And I was on the row for the media, which is in front of where the victim's family sits. So anyone who's there with Ahmaud Arbery's family, they would be on that very back row. Judge Walmsley even commented that he did notice Reverend Al Sharpton at one point, then he didn't notice him anymore. I think it would be really hard for this jury to even take in who's on that back row just because of the way this courtroom is laid out.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, and anyone's allowed inside the courtroom, right? And in this case, I guess there's some limitations because of COVID and space, but you know, if the family invites the person in, and if we were in normal times and it was a normal courtroom, anyone can walk in and out. I mean, that's why we get cameras inside the courtroom, because our courtrooms in our country are open to the public. No secret court. It just doesn't happen. Okay, if you're in there and you want to bring in banners or signs, or yeah, you can't do that, but you can. I mean, any person can walk in. It doesn't matter who you are. Wow, amazing. So was there any sort of reaction from any of the other attorneys, the defense attorneys, in the case?
There was today. We heard from one, and the way it played out, this was during a lunch break. Outside of the courthouse, there's always these microphones that are set up by media in case anyone wants to speak. We typically only hear from the family attorneys of Ahmaud Arbery. And this was a moment where the microphones were there, but really no one was paying attention or setting up a press conference because we didn't see any crowds coming out. But attorney Jason Sheffield, who represents Travis McMichael, walked out to those microphones once there was a court break after that apology from Kevin Goff, and he spoke directly about this attorney that sits at the same defense table with them but is representing a different co-defendant. Take a listen.
We are totally separate teams. The legal team are divided into Travis McMichael's legal team, Greg McMichael's legal team, and Ronnie Bryan's legal team. Of course, we talk with each other. We obviously had to do some coordination based on the limited nature of how we can operate with 3 defendants in one trial. But we're not working directly with Ronnie Bryan's legal team. There's been a lot of reporting on a statement made by Kevin Goff yesterday in court about wanting no more black pastors. The statement was totally asinine and ridiculous. And I think Kevin has realized that in the heat of what's happened in court and having concerns that this jury could be influenced by various things, that he said that, and I think he's tried to walk that back this morning. But in no way do we want to exclude anybody from this process. Everyone is welcome. Come on, come off. There's limited space in the courtroom, and so there's plenty of space in the overflow room. I expect that we'll see a lot more support for the Arbery family. I expect we'll see a lot more support for the McMichaels. I will tell you that the trial is going very smoothly, very well. And it appears that the evidence in this case is overwhelming about one thing and one thing in particular. This case is not about lynching. This case is not about racism or racist motives. This is just a neighborhood and some people trying to do the best they could to stop the problem.
I've had some questions about whether or not the chanting for justice for Ahmaud in the background was directed at Sheffield. If you notice in that video, Marcus Arbery, Ahmaud Arbery's father, walked the building because this is a break behind him, and that is the chanting that we often hear when he exits. So that chanting not necessarily directed at Jason. Well, you heard say that I think Kevin Goff has now thought about this harder, and that's why he made that apology this morning. don't know if that's the reason that that apology was made. We heard Kevin Goff say someone asked him to give that apology, but we did try and talk to him after work today, and Goff not having any comment, went on and left for the night.
But a little bit of a break in the defense now. We're starting to see, okay, we're not working directly with this team, which means it makes things much more unpredictable as this trial continues. And best case scenario, usually for prosecutors, when you have a series of defendants at the same time, why you try them at the same time is that they can turn on each other and